Good morning, Giants. Welcome to Wake Up with Giants TV. I'm Ryan Morris here with your host, Nick Smith. Oh my gosh, Giants, do you ever have those days where you cannot sleep? I do. I did last night because we have a guest on that I'm so excited to interview, to be around. I know some of the people that she knows, and it was like Christmas. I couldn't sleep at all. So I got a little extra energy help today. We were looking at the ingredients just before the show, and I think it's just pure acid and caffeine, but we're gonna go with it. I did take my fruits and vegetables in a gummy form this morning, so there's that. So
Breakfast of
I'm ready.
champions.
Yes. Yes. One step at a time. I had my string cheese, and I'm good. I'm ready. Nick, will you introduce our guest for us this morning?
I will. It's like flying on a wing and a prayer, man. Ryan's just one piece of food at a time. We'll get you there. So Hollee Mae Vance, I want to welcome you to the show. She has a full-time career as a compliance relationship manager in the retirement industry, but she's evolving into a spiritual and transitional life coach. And so she has a passion for helping people to kind of bounce against societal norms and learn to accept themselves wherever they are. Does that sound about right?
Absolutely. 100%.
Yeah. So I want to welcome you to the show.
Thank you.
We're going to dive into your story. And the hope here is, as you're watching this, if you have comments, please share them, because we'll share them on the screen and we'll let Hollee know. And then, well, there's a comment right there.
You don't have to tell me how bad my life choices are on caffeine and energy.
Yeah, please do. If you don't like where Ryan's at on that, make sure you like the video and share it. Emily Adams, thanks for posting here. We saw Emily at, where was that? Wanship?
Gas station in Wanship. Yep. It was awesome.
Random place. And she's like, Giants. It was awesome.
Oh my gosh.
We weren't even expecting it. We were out like just hunting around the hills and ran into Emily, and I went to high school with Emily, and she's all Giants. And I'd look up, and I was not expecting to see her or anybody I know. And it just, I don't know, it's coincidental. You could call it that, fate. We needed somebody to say Giants right at that moment, and it was her. So
it was perfect.
Nice.
Amazing. A synchronicity. Yeah.
Yes.
Synchronicity. We love that.
Which, by the way, I needed to share. So I sent this to Nick this morning, and I had at 1:11 a.m. on October 11th, and I snapped a photo of that. And that's another reason why I was excited for the show, because that's a big synchronicity number there. Yep.
Yeah.
Well, Hollee, let's dive in. Where do you want to start? Do you want to start in your childhood? Do you want to start where you had your awakening? What you?
I am fine to start wherever, and we can start with my childhood and just.
Yeah, let's do that. I mean, that'll give some foundation here. So what was it like growing up for you? What was family?
I consider my upbringing pretty unconventional. So my parents were really young. And divorced young. And so I was actually raised a majority of my childhood by my mother's parents. So I was in a very strict household based on very old style upbringing beliefs. And I really think that has a huge imprint on who I am today. And seeing how my grandparents truly wanted to just do the best and keep me safe and not allow me to experience, different things. So little things that come to mind, like I wasn't allowed to have sleepovers and listen to music and little things like that, where it wasn't that they didn't want me to experience those. They were trying to keep me safe, because in their days that some of those things were considered bad or taboo. And so taking that and their really loving approach to help guide me in life, I think has been huge.
Yeah, can you dive into that a little bit, the safety part? So what did that do for you? Did that feel restrictive? Did it feel like you were
very
restrictive
to
it?
Um, I always felt different anyway. I always felt like I didn't fit in. Um, and having a very limited relationship with my parents through a good portion of my younger years. Um, and then having a fairly restrictive household was difficult and felt somewhat restraining. And um, I don't in the moment I didn't feel as though, and I still don't feel as though it was damaging or negative anyway. And I hope that's not what's being portrayed. But it
Yeah.
made me work hard for the things that I wanted. They made me be dedicated and realize that there are things in life that you don't want to do. And unfortunately, that's part of it. And you have to fulfill those things. And um, that you're just not entitled to receiving, that you have to work hard. And I think that was a major role. Does that
Yeah.
answer your question?
Yeah, absolutely. Because what I'm hearing in this, I think of, the restriction. When somebody gets restricted and they break free, they feel this appreciation for their life, and they work hard for the things that they get. It's one of my favorite people is Viktor Frankl,
Mm,
uh, who was in the concentration camps, and he talked about his practice within the camps under a restrictive environment. He was still be able to have peace in that environment, but also when he came out, he was able to expand his practice
mhm,
substantially, right? And I'm not saying that your environment was that way. It's just that when there's that restriction, there's this resistance to that.
mhm.
You have to learn to live within it in some degree. But then when you step away from that, you have an opportunity to be appreciative of what you have, because in those circumstances you can have so little, like a little freedom and all these things. And so I don't, am I off on that? Correct me if I'm wrong. Because
No, you're correct. So transitioning, looking at how I grew up as to how I parent is totally different.
yeah,
I allow my children to make some decisions, within reason,
right,
um, because I want them to feel empowered. I want them to recognize that there are some consequences to your decisions as well. If you want the freedom of being able to make those choices, you have to live with whatever comes with that.
yeah,
And so I think that's very valuable, and it helps them to know that they have the ability to look at a situation and weigh their options before making, something as simple as playing a sport, but pros and cons, or getting their ears pierced. I have sons, and it's not a permanent thing, it's just something temporary, but they have the ability to make that decision.
yeah, yeah. Perfect. Now, when you were young, did you have naysayers, people that said you couldn't? I mean, outside of this experience, did you have people that say you couldn't do things, that you weren't good enough? There's no way that you'll succeed. Anything like that?
Um, Growing up, I don't recall that specifically. Throughout my life, yes. Um, I feel like I always struggled with the concept of being enough. Um, and up until just recently, until I was 37, I'm 38 now. So I
Yeah.
struggled with that whole idea. Um, but I think the number one naysayer in my life has been myself, doubting my abilities. And so, really being able to turn inward and recognize my own power and becoming my own biggest cheerleader has been a huge pivotal point in my life.
Yeah.
How do you flip that? How do you flip that from being like your biggest, your biggest naysayer, your biggest critic, to being your biggest cheerleader? What are some of the things that you've done to do that?
Self love, self compassion, and it's not perfected. I still practice this every day. Um, and just knowing that there are going to be days and times where I'm struggling and I'm doubting myself. What am I doing? Am I making the right choices? And then really settling in, allowing quiet, and evaluating, why am I making this decision or these decisions? And knowing that I'm doing the best that I can with the tools that I have, and I'm expanding my tools as I'm, learning and experiencing life.
I love that
And
right there, where you just don't settle, where a lot of people would just take their circumstances and say, well, that's what I have, and then this is just doing the best I can with what I have. But you took it even farther, the next step, which is then, well, how can I get even farther? How can I grow? How can I improve from here? These
yeah,
are the circumstances. You recognize the circumstances. This is happening, but then expand your tool belt, and I love that.
yeah,
That's awesome.
thank you. I think too, I mean, I don't want to just fight to survive. I want to live and thrive. And in order to do so, I have to question what I'm doing, but I also have to have that compassion aspect because I'm not perfect and I am going to make those mistakes. And learning from those to help propel me forward is huge.
So when you look at where you are right now, I mean, was this on your radar when you were younger? Is this something that you wanted to do? Did you have a clear path to this, or was this? I mean, what made you decide to go down the road you did?
I wanted to. I started dabbling in like psychology in high school, and I really wanted to get an understanding of what makes people tick. How can somebody go from struggling in life to just truly surpassing their dreams? And but I wasn't confident in myself, and so I'd kind of get into it and be like, oh, I don't know. And I always felt like I had these questions that weren't normal questions. And so I just kind of push everything aside and just go along with my normal life, do what everyone else is doing, getting a job and getting married and all of these things.
Yeah.
Because that was what was normal. And a couple years later, I would kind of start to feel that pull, into, I mean, something simple as meditating and looking inward and still question my confidence, not feeling as though like, what am I doing? I don't know anything about this. Nobody else that I know does this. So again, push it aside.
Yeah.
There's a lot of giants that do that.
Yeah.
Are you okay disclosing where we are in this? Because you're going against societal norms. So when you say,
100%.
will you share what this is that is you're feeling like this goes against the norms? What is this?
Okay. I feel like there's quite a few things. I question monogamy. I question the normal sequence of events of finding somebody and then going, oh, you are my number one fulfillment, and we're going to be together forever, and we're going to have kids, and this is our life.
Yeah.
I don't believe in that. I feel like humans are animals, and I feel like we're constricting ourselves by limiting and also by expecting another individual to be that one fulfillment. I mean, obviously we have friends and family, but that level of expectation is so huge. And why are we placing that on another person? We shouldn't be. The only expectations I want to live up to in life are my own. Obviously, I have roles. I'm a mother. I have a career. I'm a daughter. I'm all of these things.
Yeah.
I want to fulfill those roles because that makes me happy. But the only expectations I want to live up to are my very own. And I don't feel like that's a societal norm. I want to value my internal commitment over external commitments. That's not a societal norm. Everybody wants to please everyone else before they take care of themselves.
Can you go into the taboo of that? How did you handle that?
It's hard.
Yeah. Okay.
Hard.
Hear that. This is. Let me pause for just a second. This is the giants' journeys, because you might be going down. I saw somebody post about, going all the way back when churches ruled and they held all the power and all the knowledge and information, and somebody came out and rewrote it and they burned them at the stake, because they went against the grain. And so much now, we're getting into a space where there's more acceptance, but there's still that in a way, burning of the stake at the stake for people when they come out and they go against the grain. And so the Giant's Journey, your path is your own unique path.
Mm-hmm.
And every giant's path is unique. And there's not two that are the same. And so this is why I want to bring this up, is because your path is so unique. Like, talk about that conflict that you had.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, trying to identify my sexual orientation was a huge struggle. And, you know, really admitting that I don't believe in monogamy. And I mean, you can only imagine the amount of criticism and judgment that comes along with that, because what it's doing is it's disrupting the foundation that a lot of people live on. And how can you possibly be happy and fulfilled when you're not doing what we're all meant to do, you know, that supposedly. And I'm not living my life for anyone else. And so I had to really get to the core of that and understand I'm living my life for me. I'm the only one responsible for my happiness. No one else is. My kids, my friends, my partners, my family. I'm responsible for fulfilling myself. And if I'm whole and I love myself and I'm living a true, authentic life that speaks to me and naturally occurs and is not causing harm to anyone else, then there's nothing wrong with that. It's simply different. And I have to accept that because it's different, I'm going to get looks, criticism, and harsh words. But I'm not living my life for them. So unfortunately, I have to push those comments and, like you said, naysayers. I have to not allow that to penetrate my being.
In the book, The Giants and the Smalls, there's this point where Rit is sitting in the streets, and there's some other Smalls that are belittling him, and they're laughing and criticizing him because he's going against societal norms. He's doing something different that Smalls don't do, and you know, and I think about that, and I'd hope at some point, you know, that we keep having these conversations, that we find it in our hearts to love and accept others for being human and for living their authentic life. And as we have those conversations, we grow and develop in our I don't know, in our thinking, and grow out of our small-minded thinking. That we can, you know, expand that we can help others to see, hey, look, I mean, you know, like they're living their authentic life. That it's not hurting anybody.
Yeah,
They're beautiful people too, you know.
absolutely.
And I hope that continues to happen. So I appreciate this conversation. This is interesting to me, and it's not new, because I was taught to love others. And I try to do that. I try to be open and accepting to everybody. And so I'm just grateful. I'm feeling a lot of gratitude right now for you. So I appreciate you so much for talking about this with us, because it can be a little bit difficult. It's a little bit. I mean, maybe you've done this enough too, but there's people at home that are going to be watching and go or rewatching this and go, oh my gosh, she's speaking what I'm wanting to say and to feel and be. And
what I've been afraid to say, you know, because you know, there is a social cost to it. And so a lot of people are afraid to be their authentic selves because of what others might think or what they might say or how that rocks the foundation, like you said.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, and by choosing love over choosing fear, you're allowing an expansion in your realm. And you're allowing a beautiful inner light to grow. And if you're constantly living in fear, are you living? I mean, no, you're surviving.
Well, there's people that they live their entire lives within that state of survival, you know, and they don't go beyond food, shelter, and procreation, you know, that's it. And there are places all over the world where that occurs daily. And so to be able to step beyond that And in our world, we're in a first world country. We're pretty blessed to be here in America. We have most of those things taken care of pretty readily. You know, we're getting into a space where that might not be the same. But because of that, we've been able to expand and really explore who we are as humans and really look at all aspects of being human. And so it's from there that we have a chance to grow. And these people in countries where they are in a survival state, they can expand a little bit more. We talk about degrees of growth, you know, like turns on a screw. It's like you go up one spiral at a time. And it's like your life doesn't change in quantum leaps. It changes one little spiral at a time, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so my question here is, when you went out on this path, was it a clear path for you? Did you have a straight line and you're like, boom, I'm there?
No, first of all, I'm definitely a firm believer everything happens for a reason. And I like to try and follow my intuition and the synchronicities in life, the natural guides from the universe. And so it has not been a clear path. I've had an idea of where I wanted to go, but then I also didn't want to be fixated on that, because being fixated on what it looks like can actually limit my potential, because I'm like, oh no, it has to fit into this box. No, I want it to be this open realm that I'm evolving into that allows even more possibilities than I probably imagined.
Yeah, there's like a limited or an unlimited amount of options or realities that can come, that if you force it into this little box of how it's supposed to be, you're not going to ever see those. You're not going to ever grow like you could, or let the universe guide you. We talk about this a fair amount on this show and on with giants and things like that, about putting it out there. Hey, this is where I want to go. This is what I want to do, and then going to work, getting into motion, and letting the universe help you create that. And it's been amazing to see how Nick and I, even with what we're doing, this show wasn't even part of what we had thought about at one point in time. And sitting in coffee shops and creating and talking, it evolved and it came along, and we said, hey, well, let's give it a go. And man, I'm glad we did, because the people that we were able to meet and the evolution in our thinking and the expansion, we talk, instead of a revolution, just a turning around, it's an evolution. It's spiraling upwards and creating a bigger, stronger, greater awareness. I don't know. It's
we are episode 30. You're episode 30, which is awesome.
Yes, my birthday is 4/30, so that to me is very representative.
And we got 4 viewers on right now, so we'll like find synchronicity wherever we can.
Yes, absolutely.
So here's what I love about what you're saying, is that the pathway isn't always clear. As humans, we like to burn up resources and really like cut through mountains and create paths where there are not paths, and which is amazing in its own way, because we're able to do things that most creatures can't do. At the same time, there's this flow, this natural flow that shows up when you start putting energy into your dream, whatever it is. I posted the other day about a gentleman that his goal was to document all 30,000 edible plants, something like that, in the world, so that people wouldn't have to go hungry. And that was his giant path. And you imagine the amount of work it took for him to get there.
Yeah.
And like your path, you go out on it, and another path opens, and another path opens, and another path opens. And it's like lightning or rivers or circulatory systems. It's like all of this flow starts opening up, and the primary path really shows itself.
Oh, absolutely.
And so as you hear that, kind of go into what comes up for you.
Well, when I decided earlier this year, after I don't even know how many times that the idea of becoming a coach came to me, I was like, you know what, I'm finally gonna start just making little steps every day, and reading and researching and opening up my perspective to see, are there potential pathways that I'm not seeing? Is there something that I'm limiting myself because I'm not being open to the possibilities of getting to this path? And I have been a part of some amazing women's groups. I have started to connect with people that I never would have reached out to otherwise. It just kind of happened. And I started to recognize my ability to connect with people on such a raw level and help open up their perspective. And especially, I have several friends in the trans community, and to see the, oh my gosh, the beautiful evolution of a being once they finally accept themselves and start to move forward to love themselves, regardless of what's going on around them. It is truly a beautiful experience. And to be witness to their personal growth and acceptance just has propelled me even farther. And I'm collaborating with some women on creating some feminine workshops. And I don't know, I didn't dream of any of these things. I just wanted to be, I knew I had an ability to be a coach and to help people. And through that process of opening that up for myself, these little teeny things started to just come into play and really connect on an inner level with me. I don't know if that answered that question, but
yeah, you're hitting on the book. Like, so the Giants and the Smalls, the book is the Giants' journey.
Yeah.
From all the way through. There is no end. Here's the thing is, people look like, I'm going to set a goal and I'm going to get to the end. The problem is when you get to the end, it was like we went hiking the other day, hiking with guns. We went hunting. And so we climbed this mountain, and you climb this high road and you get to the top and you're like, yes, we made it. And then you look to the right all over the valley and there's 300 more mountains with a road, the same road going up each of them. Yes. And all you do is you're exposing more pathways. So that as you complete one, you expose another, and it's limitless. And so when you talk about taking tiny steps every day, little steps every day, this is where most people miss out. They want this quantum leap from where they are to where they want to be. And when they don't get it, that's kind of where that entitled feeling might come from, is that, well, I put in the effort, I should have that thing. Right. But it's these little tiny steps that open up the pathway that allow for that to become a reality. And sometimes it is giant leaps. Sometimes you're just shotgunning through and you're good. Right. So I appreciate that you said that, because you're really highlighting here not only, going against societal norms like Rit had to do, stepping out on a path on your own, not having a clear path, taking tiny steps every day, growing through it, expanding, and knowing that there's no limit to your potential. I mean, you have seriously just tapped the surface of what you're capable of here.
Absolutely. So. Well, and I think too, it's important to notice these little teeny occurrences that take place in life. So I truly believe in the presence of animals that just take place in your normal everyday life. So the other day, I started to share a little bit more on social media, which was a stretch for me because I don't usually. But there was a grasshopper right in front of my path, and that is a sign of steps forward. And I truly feel that is happening in my life, and that was just a confirmation for me that just by being aware and present in that moment to see the grasshopper and recognize that there was some significance in my identifying him was huge. And it brought a smile to my face and it warmed my heart. And those little things I have so much gratitude for. And it's even my sons. I mean, if we see a fox or any type of animal, we have an animal speak book and we open it up and we read to see what that significance is. And almost 9 times out of 10, it's very representative of that individual or the group of us. So
Nick and I used to go for walks when we worked at the same place, and we would go up this steep hill. Well, it wasn't real steep, but maybe to me it was because I was out of shape. But we're going up this big hill, and we go on these walks, and he'd point out things. Hey, did you see that spider in that in that bush with that web? And I'm like, huh? And he'd say, did you see that bird? and the same thing is he taught me the importance of those things, and to watch and slow down, to see meaning that comes across. So I don't know, it's kind of surreal that you're talking about that right now, because it brought back all of those memories of walk after walk of Nick tucking and saying those things. A fly would be buzzing around my head, and I'm swatting at it going, get away, fly. And he's like, hey, you need to pay attention to something.
Yeah.
Slow down. And
absolutely.
I don't know. It's pretty awesome.
Well,
I also wanted to,
well,
going,
just
Nick.
real quick on that. The path that we go down, when we go hiking, the path is pretty clear.
Mm-hmm.
You can see the dirt and where everybody's walked, and it's pretty clear. But on our path, we're kind of cutting through the forest. And so having those markers come up and saying, look, you're on the right path, that synchronicity to me is important. Mm-hmm. Seeing numbers, seeing numbers. Yeah, it's these things that help me know, hey, keep going. Just keep putting that energy out there. You're on the right path here.
Absolutely. Well, and I wanted to touch on when you were talking about that higher perspective, when you got to the end of your hike, and then seeing, oh, there's 30 more mountains around me that I could hike to the top to as well. And I think it's very important for personal growth to be able to take yourself out of the situation and look at it from a higher perspective. Whether that means you go hiking to just kind of get out and look at everything.
Do you mean a giant's view of things? Like,
yeah.
Do you
Hey,
read minds too? Because I feel like you've been just like on my shoulder for like the last, I don't know, year and a half of my life.
It's crazy. And even like in the middle of the night, looking up at the stars, recognizing I am nothing but a speck on a speck in a speck. And so whatever happens to seem in that very moment that life is ending, or I can't how am I going to go on with life tomorrow? And the end of things, that is so insignificant. Life is going to go on. There's going to be a sunrise tomorrow and a sunset. And so really taking yourself out of that whirlwind and checking yourself and recognizing I have the power. I just have to, be still for a moment and remember.
In the book, Rit meets up with Remy and they go out towards the ocean. But because Rit is small, his view, he can't see up over this cliff. He sees hardly anything, and he's like, "Whoa, what is this? What's going on here?" And Remy picks.
Yeah, this is dumb, right? Like,
hold on, watch this. He's like, "What is this? Why are you showing me this?"
Grass.
He picks Rit up, and he puts him on his shoulder, and he stands up, and all of a sudden the expanse, the view changes, and he sees the ocean and the sun and all the things that the world has to offer in a whole new perspective. This is what I think is important, having these conversations too, bringing it back to going against the social norms. You see a whole new perspective when you hear somebody else's point of view and you talk to them and you find out that they're human, that there's probably more that they have in common with you than they don't, and that you can learn to love, and you can expand your love and your acceptance and your growth. Doesn't mean you have to do what they're doing per se,
right?
But you see a whole new perspective, and that's a beautiful thing. And so I feel like like our viewers, I think a lot of them too today are maybe hopefully are expanding their vision, seeing things from a giant point of view, because you're a giant, and the things that you're doing are wonderful and beautiful and good. So yeah.
Hollee, do you ever feel fear around this transition?
Yeah, yeah, definitely. I mean, go ahead. Sorry.
Yeah, can you talk about it? Just go ahead and share your experience around that.
Yeah, I mean, there's that fear of unknown, and there's that fear of failure. I mean, that's at the core of everyone. And being able to identify it and not hold on to it and recognize, yeah, there is fear, but where there is fear, there's also potential. And I don't want to live in fear. I want to face my fears. My whole life, I've been petrified of bears. And so I'm sure family and friends just laugh when I say that. Yeah. I mean,
bears
in
are
my
the worst.
mind, right? And
have you seen the picture of the bear spider?
No,
Google that,
but I don't know if I want to.
It combines two of my worst fears in one. But anyway, keep going. Sorry.
Oh my gosh. No, I'm going to have to look that up because I didn't know there was such a thing.
You gotta anchor in your thoughts because we'll take you off track pretty quick.
Sorry,
No,
I do that a lot.
golden.
That's the ADHD of this goodness.
No
So you have this fear of, that you're a bear. So go back to that.
No, you're good. I've had it okay, so I don't know if you remember the movie The Bear way back. I was like 1989 when it came out.
Oh yeah.
And so I always think in the dark, there's a bear lurking around camp, sitting there staring at me like, oh, she's a good meal. I know in daylight, I mean, logically speaking, that's not going to happen. But once it gets dark and I can't see, and
that's when they come out.
Yeah. But I mean, I have limited my kids because of my fear, and I've limited my self experience because of this fear. And I have made so much progress this year with being in the dark with no light and just laying underneath the stars, which is something I would have never been able to do. Going into bear country and going hiking. And it all started, okay, well, let's do some research. And then once I get to that place and I'm like, okay, I'm definitely feeling triggered and I'm feeling fear. My palms are sweaty. And then I have to figure out a game plan. Okay, so what am I going to do if a bear comes? Well, I've got my bear spray. I have a bear bell. And really making sure, okay, I'm setting myself up for success. And also recognizing my limits. I'm not going to go on a trail where there's a grizzly, and I know that there is because there's a sign saying this morning, because I'm not prepared for that type of an encounter yet. But I at least putting myself in situations where I can gain that confidence and slowly build that confidence so that hopefully one day I can go bike or backpacking by myself in the country and feel fine. That is a goal. But I'm not going to do that overnight. I have to recognize and prepare myself appropriately to take on that fear and to surpass my expectations.
So there's a rewriting of the story in a way of that fear. I mean, you're not running away from it. You're allowing it to be present. Mm-hmm. You're experiencing it fully, but you're also staying engaged with what it is you want to create. Right. So you're not running away from the fear and allowing it to rule. You're standing firm. You're facing it. You're turning the light on. You're shaking off I picture the sheets over all the furniture in those old haunted houses.
Yeah.
You're like opening the curtains and dusting things off, and you're exposing that what you're afraid of was really that story that you built up around that fear.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so
what I thought about was Jackie Moon wrestles a bear in Semi-Pro. If you haven't watched that, go back and watch that. That'll get you a laugh around bears.
That won't be scary at all. Yeah, that'll help you.
The bear's name is Precious.
Precious. Oh, even better.
Yeah. Well, somebody said once that courage can only exist in the presence of fear. And
smart man.
You pushing out there and laying under the stars and being in the dark and going hiking in bear country, it's that exposure therapy. It's that way of being wise. I mean, you're not going to go jump in a bear den at the zoo and hope
Yeah.
Yeah.
You try it. Some have.
Some have. It hasn't turned out very well.
Yeah, I don't think that was successful.
That might enhance the fear. So let me ask you this. If you were to go back in time, let's say you had a time machine and you could go back and talk to your younger self. For some reason, I'm picturing 10 years old.
Yeah.
Your 10-year-old self, and you could say anything to her.
Let's say 11-year-old self, because it's the 11th.
All right. 10,
Yeah.
11.
Ooh, I like that. Nice. Oh, I
10,
would
11.
power number.
Yeah.
I would say, girl, you've got this. You are enough. Don't be afraid of trying new things. And I mean, I'm right there with you this whole time. I think the whole "you are enough" sums it up in those 3 words.
What does that do? Yeah, I mean, if we were to expand on that a little bit, you are enough. What does being enough do for you?
Oh, um, I am everything that I need. I don't need to look for fulfillment in others. I don't need to have a void filled by another person or a thing, an addiction, anything like that. I am all that I need. And having that awareness, I feel like does give you that confidence to say, I am going to try this. I might not be good at it and I might not even like it, but at least I tried it so I can say, you know what, I was thinking about playing volleyball, but I was too afraid. I was like, what if I'm not good enough? What if, what if? Well, what if you enjoy it? Instead of thinking about all the things that could go wrong, we need to start looking at all the things that could go right. So instead of saying, well, why wouldn't you? Like, what could happen when you do try it? I don't know.
No, you do know.
I do know. Yeah, I was gonna say. I'm
do
like,
know.
yeah.
What if it is positive? That being enough, that acceptance of self. I hear so many. I do coaching calls and conversations. The biggest thing I run into is self-acceptance.
Oh yeah.
When people struggle with themselves, they really have a hard time accepting acceptance from anybody else.
Right.
And so, knowing that you are enough and just being able to allow that to be present allows others to send their love towards you and for you to receive it.
Right.
Otherwise, we block it away because we don't even love ourselves. How can I accept anything outside of me if I don't even love myself?
Exactly. How can you have a fulfilling relationship with other people if you're not loving yourself? And I'm not saying that I feel like that can come off fairly negative, but self-love is one of the most important things. And you're going to be a better person for you and for all of those around you by focusing on that.
Yeah. So somebody might say that's selfish, right?
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Oh, 100%.
But on something really important here is that when you love yourself, you want to love others. Mm-hmm. When you care about you, you start to care about others. It's when you feel shitty inside and you're like, I don't like me. You really start to not like other people.
Yeah.
But we want to put it out there as like, this is their fault. Like, it's not me.
Yeah.
I didn't create this.
Well, it promotes the victim mentality.
Yeah.
It promotes that judgment mentality. Oh, well, you're not doing something that I accept of, and I don't like myself, so I'm not going to like what you're doing either. Mm-hmm. Where if you have that self-acceptance, self-love, and compassion, then you have that for other people as well. So when people make a mistake, you're not like, well, I told you so. No, you're like, it's okay, dust yourself off and try again. Or I'm afraid to express who I truly am. Well, because you accept yourself for who you truly are, you're going to accept other people for who they truly are, even if you don't see eye to eye. We don't have to. And that's, I think, a huge misconception. Like, we're either trying to convince somebody to like what we like or to have the viewpoint that we do. No, we all have different ones and they don't have to mesh as long as we can at least see that there's a different perspective, and you do you, I'm going to do me, and we'll just kind of meet somewhere in the middle.
So this is huge right now, especially in our environment, because we're seeing a polarization of people in groups and out groups, and right groups and wrong groups, and religions and countries against countries, When you can rise above that and have compassion for yourself and have a compassionate view for others, there is no polarization. Mm-mm. There is no us against them. It's we're coming together. You know, in the Robbers Cave experiment, when they did that back in the 60s, and they took these two camps and they were friends when they went in, they divided them in groups. They became enemies. They fought against each other. And the only thing that brought them back together was a goal that was bigger than all of them, a superordinate goal. And when we can create that. We can rise above to that superordinate goal in looking at humanity as we all matter. And when we can do that, then we can have this blending back together and this unity and this friendship and kindness and compassion. But when we're polarized, when I'm right and you're wrong, we're going to have battles. We're going to have wars. It's not healthy.
No, it's not. And it just promotes more conflict.
Yeah.
And people want people to pick sides, and there shouldn't be a side.
Right. This is great. I mean, we haven't even jumped into your story much, other than we know that you live a lifestyle that's different from what is considered to be normal, right? Mm-hmm. And the path that you've gone on hasn't been easy for you to get to where you are.
Right.
And it didn't happen overnight. You mentioned that. It wasn't an overnight thing. It's one spiral, one tiny step at a time. You decided, I'm going to go for it. And one little step at a time, you created that new lifestyle. So if you were to advise somebody that's watching this show that's maybe having these thoughts of, I feel different inside. I don't feel like everybody else.
Right.
And I'm not happy because I'm not accepting of that because I'm concerned about what others might think. Right?
Right.
What would you say to them?
I think it goes back to, who are you living your life for? And try taking, I feel like we keep saying the same thing over and over again, but it's such a huge part of it, is do something every day that speaks to your true inner self. Whether that be taking in a certain activity, journaling, reading, listening to a podcast, something that connects you to that inner speaking in inner guide, inner voice, inner intuition, and so that you can strengthen it, so that you can allow that to happen more frequently, right. And quit looking for validation from others. I mean, I feel like a lot of people are constantly looking for acceptance and validating from other people. And that also boils down to living your life for yourself. And it's progress. It's a huge process. There's a lot of work that has to be done, and you have to be dedicated to yourself in order to do that. But it's not impossible, and that's the thing. There are so many resources. There are so many beautiful sources out there that can help you get to that point.
There's a lot of giants that I see. They have like daily routines, things like that set them up for the day. Do you have a daily routine or things that you do to help kind of set yourself up for the day?
Yes. Qigong has been a very big part of my life, and I want to say that I practice it every day, and I don't, but I do a majority of the time.
Yeah.
That's me, energy drinks. I want to say that I do it every day, but I do the majority of the time.
Exactly. No, I feel like that connection with my energy, balancing my energy, focusing on my breath, and just those super small, smooth movements releases any stagnant negative energy that I may have kept from the day before, clears me for the day, and I try to do it on my balcony, so I'm doing it with the sunrise, which is very significant for me. And so that's probably one of the most meaningful routines, but also stretching, physical activity, I'm very mindful about the food that I consume, and my food prep is pretty, I don't want to say intense, but I'm passionate about it.
That's a good thing.
And um,
I do make a few bad choices, but I'm working
oh
on
yeah,
my
but that's the beauty of it is you are allowed to do that. It's you're your own person, and if that's what you choose to partake in,
But even that comment of bad choices is a relative phrase.
yeah,
What's bad to you might be life to another. It's like
it's true.
it's all relative. As you were talking about doing the qigong,
hmm
right? This is what I thought of. I said, some days are warmer than others, and life goes on anyway.
yeah,
Like, some days it's sunny, and some days it's not. Some days you shine your energy a little brighter than others, but you keep moving forward. And that's the beauty, is that you are constantly spiraling up in your life, even if it's one tiny thread at a time.
absolutely.
And so pausing for a minute, it doesn't mean you've gone backward.
Oh no. And the days that I don't do it, I can feel it. And then I have to remind myself that's why it's an important aspect of your morning. I find great significance in the weather. I mean, when it rains, I'm like, oh, it's washing away that which no longer serves. When that air is heavy, I'm like, okay, that is telling that I need to look within. I mean,
Yeah.
just little things that help remind me to be the best version of me that I can.
Yeah.
I went out this morning and opened up the door. I had left my earbuds out in the car, and I walked out to get it, and there, the ground was wet. It had rained, and the sun was coming up, just barely poking up above the mountains, and the smells, from the evaporation, and like you talked about, the air being heavy, and it was reflecting off of the just the dew on the grass and the water on the driveway. I'm like, man, this is a beautiful, fresh new start. This is a great day. So it's interesting that you had just said that, because I took a picture of it. I'll see if I can post it here in a little bit,
Yes.
because I'm using my phone to record, so I can't show you those beautiful things, but I will. I'll post that maybe in the comments or something like that. But I agree with that 100%.
That smell is called petrichor, the smell of
Petrichor.
earth after rain. And it is something that I find absolutely stunningly beautiful.
It's ionic, right?
Yeah.
Is it? Maybe I'm ionic? The ions in the air? Is that what you're smelling, or is that more with lightning?
I believe so. It's the I don't know the scientific term for, but it's all the particles that the rain has captured and a mixture of that in the earth's soil.
Okay.
And then once that starts to dry, there's an odor that arises, and it's petrichor.
That was scientific enough for me. That was awesome.
Yeah. Sounds delicious.
As you're speaking, as I hear your journey, the giant's journey is a journey of being different.
Mm-hmm.
If Rit had chosen to stay the same, he would have stayed small in the story. If Hollee Mae Vance decided that she wanted to be like everybody else, she would have stayed small. Right? And so it didn't serve you to play small in your life. And there was a lot at stake when you stepped out on that path. But your journey is going to be an inspiration for others. And so they're going to want to know, how do we talk to Hollee? How can I transition in whatever way that is?
Right.
How can I do that? So can you tell people about that? How do they connect with you?
I have a page on Facebook, Hollee Mae Vance, and Instagram, and just message me, and I would be happy to connect and see what we can work on and build together.
Yeah, perfect.
Yeah.
I see.
As she develops programs, we want to be able to highlight you as a giant. So keep us updated, will you?
I will. Yes, absolutely. I am so excited about some of the things that we are collaborating on a personal level, along with on a larger platform, and it's amazing. I know that we're heading to the end, and I feel as though I need to pay a better tribute to my grandparents. I hope I did not paint a negative or harsh picture, because they were truly some of the most magical and meaningful people in my life that I pay tribute to on a daily basis. And so I just wanted to make sure, for my own, to make sure that I reflected that.
That's excellent. Yeah, I didn't feel that from you. As a situation, as understanding where your story might have come from, right? It definitely contributed to that. And so it helps people to see that there are so many different start points in the Giants' journey.
Right.
Every one of our Giants started differently. And so
and they didn't know what they didn't know. They were taught the things that they were taught, but by their parents and et cetera, et cetera. And as we evolve, as we grow as humans, and we start to expand, hey, well, what's right, what's wrong, what's the it expands our field of vision.
Oh, absolutely. Our perspective.
And so that was a good base for you to then start to question, hey, well, what if is this who I am supposed to be? Is this it raises a bunch of questions, and but gives you some perspectives and some foundation. But truthfully, they did what they did out of love, because they loved you. They wanted to protect you 100%. And so we can take that same example and still love each other and love other people with that same energy and zeal, but expand as well.
Agreed. Thank you.
Hollee, is there anything else you want to share today?
Not off the top of my head. This was amazing. I'm so grateful for the opportunity. You guys are truly paving a new way. So thank you.
Thank you. That's awesome to hear. We go every day like you. We get up and we put on our $200 pairs of jeans and I'm just kidding.
Our baseball caps. Next time I'll wear a baseball cap so I can.
You don't want to see it. You want to see this without the baseball cap. We have big foreheads.
There
it goes.
Yeah, it's there was a comedian that said that. The truth is we're all on our own journeys, and the more of us that can wake up to our giant potential, the better. Because we have this chance to really rise above what's going on in the world today. What's going on is polarizing.
Yes.
What's going on is limiting us and shrinking us back to our small selves, and that's not who we are. All this beautiful rhyme.
Thanks, Nicole.
Yeah.
Agreed. 100%.
So I appreciate you being on the show.
Ryan,
Nick,
I also wanted, real quick. I just wanted to tell our viewers and the people that are watching, thank you. I have tons of gratitude. We've developed a tribe of giants, and I feel, I don't know, I'm getting maybe even a little bit emotional where we've attracted so many wonderful. There's one right there, Julia. Julia will be on next week, I believe, and just the caliber of people that you can attract into your life, and you can change instantly what you want to attract, what you want to be, what you want to do, what you want to have. You can change and start living that right now today. So you as a giant, you have all the potential, you have all the things that you need inside of you right now. Go start living a giant lifestyle. Start being who you were meant to be. And the things that happen and the things that come because of that will just blow your mind. And so there's so much gratitude. Thank you, Nicole. Thank you, Diana. Thank you, Julia, for commenting today. Anybody else who did, and thank you, Hollee, for living your giant potential, for being a giant.
Thank you so much. You guys are amazing.
Thank you. We'll wrap it up there, Ryan. That was a great outro. That was perfect. Yeah, if you guys
I've been practicing for a while. I've been up since about 3 o'clock in the morning because I'm like a kid at Christmas. I'm telling you.
Yeah,
I was so excited. So thank you.
You have such a great energy around it. It's like it makes it awesome. So if you guys haven't read the book, go get the book. Share the book with your friends, family, loved ones. Like this book is what Hollee's described is the Giant's Journey. What every one of our guests describes in their journey is the Giant's Journey. It looks a little different each time, but it's their own version. So you guys all have a great week. Thank you, Julia. Make it a giant week. We'll see you in the next episode. Holly, if you want to hang on for a minute and just banter, we can.
Yeah.
Yeah. Anybody that's part of the tribe too, invite others that you see as giants and that will understand to the tribe, because we want to expand our tribe.
Perfect. Yeah. That's it. We'll see you next week, guys.
Thank you.
Holly, so how are you feeling?
Good. I actually have a little bit of tears in my eyes.
Did you?
Amazing. I was really nervous and in the beginning, and then it just kind of flowed. So
yeah. Well, you have a great message to share. You know, I have conflicts internally about how I live my life, you know, and my views of the world. And so hearing from a giant like you that's gone through it, and I'll call you a giant, you know, it's inspiring to me to live more closely with what I feel is in alignment with me.
Yeah.
You know, even if it's different from societal norms, it is. It's not what I grew up in.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, there's so much growth that can happen when you don't confine yourself to what's considered the norm.
Yeah.
And what works for you isn't going to work for the next person or the next 5.
Right.
And that's the beauty of it. We're all unique individuals, and we all bring something so incredibly different to the table that there's so much potential when we get together. And my sons know that this is now the dogs, sir.
Hey, this is the part of the show that you can bring the dog in.
Absolutely.
Hey, you just said something about in the Christian world, they talk about, well, Jesus, talks about there's room at my table.
Yeah.
And that message, whether you're Christian or not, is what you're talking about. That there's everybody can bring something unique to the table. That there's room at the table for everybody.
Yeah.
And that we can learn and grow and expand. And I don't know. I'm just hiding behind my microphone now because I don't know. I just, this message is needed.
It is.
It was needed for me. It was needed for a lot of people out there.
Yeah.
We need to be more inclusive and more accepting as a society. It releases that polarization that you were referencing, and there's so much of that going on, and it's truly sad. And so by living your true authentic self, I feel like you're being an example to allow other people to see that it is possible.
There's a big difference between what you're describing and somebody that has no regard for other people's well-being.
Right.
And so when you're talking about inclusiveness, there's some behaviors that as a whole we agree they're not healthy for anybody.
Right.
And so that's not what we're talking about. There's buildings full of people that have done things that really take away that freedom.
Right.
And so when we talk about inclusive, this isn't creating in-groups and out-groups. It's just there's some behaviors that are really harmful. Like, don't do that.
Yeah. Because you are having an impact on people.
Yeah.
And by saying, I don't accept you, or you can't be in this space, makes them question who they are. There's so many, it can spiral them out of control. And if they're already struggling and unbalanced, it's that much harder for them to get back up. And instead approaching life in the manner of love and acceptance, doesn't mean that you have to take on people's baggage. There's definitely boundaries that you have to create, but having that open, loving approach, I feel like is needed, necessary.
Yeah.
A lot of this boils down to love. We have a giant Sandra Berger who talks about that. Just she's all about love. Because when you come from a space of it's holding space for others.
Yeah.
Sometimes it's being that bridge and that to being open to seeing both sides or without judgment. And
Yeah,
think,
Sandra is somebody that you would, I don't know if you're following her, Sandra Berger.
But I should look her up.
Yeah, she's great. She's got such a unique view on love. She's redefining love for me.
I love that.
Because it's not that she's doing it for me, she's being Sandra.
Right.
And so, but in that.
She's really good at being Sandra, too.
She is. In fact, there's nobody else that can be Sandra like Sandra.
Exactly. Yeah. That's the beauty of it.
Yeah. So same thing here. You're opening space for others to explore what might be taboo, what they might consider taboo.
Absolutely.
And really pursue that. It's really great.
Well, and Ryan touched on something when he said holding space. And I think there's so much value in saying to another person, I'm holding space for you today. They're going through a hard time. Often when we're struggling because of whatever situations may arise, tragedies, whatnot, you end up feeling alone and lost. And how am I going to get through this day? And simply by someone saying, I'm thinking of you, I love you, and I'm holding space for you, meaning I can help carry, even on a subconscious level, I can help hold your burden.
Right.
There's energy too that can be given and transferred, I believe. You know, that just through the thoughts and stuff like that can be given. And yeah, I agree with that.
Yeah, keep on.
I actually have had experiences of transmuting other people's energy. And so there's definitely so much potential there if done correctly. And being able to help people see that they have those energy blocks and to help them clear that can be so beneficial for their well-being and progress.
Yeah, this is great. So there's Sandra's info too.
Oh yes, perfect.
She's just a great human. We got a lot of great humans around us. I mean, just a whole tribe, like we said, and more coming every day. The tribe is growing. The Giants as Smalls page is growing. The Wake Up with Giants is growing. I mean, we're into the tens of thousands of views. You know, we're getting to a space where it's starting to get some traction and momentum. And so, yeah, it's awesome.
It is. You guys have just been an amazing resource for people to help them do exactly that. See things from a higher perspective, see their own potential for life. So I hope you guys recognize the huge impact that you have.
Well, thank you. Thank you. We still got a lot in us.
Yes, it doesn't stop.
No, there's no end. It's a matter, you know, here's something real quick though that I'm learning is capacity, is that we're having to expand our capacity because our capacity, you know, when we started was pretty limited. And as we've grown, we've increased our capacity, but we've also had to work within that capacity to say no to things because we're out of room in our current capacity. And so we're having to expand out so we can add more into that capacity. Because
believe it or not, we were worse than this before. Like it was pretty bad when we started.
What do you mean worse?
I'm just kidding. That was a joke. That was a joke.
Wait a minute.
It was way worse than this.
No, it's a learning, expanding, and anchoring in certain things so that you can carry more. And it's just like building muscles on the body. It's like you have a certain level that sticks. Yeah. Most of the energy is lost, but some of it sticks. And then the next day you start with that foundation, you add a little bit more to it and you get a little bigger. And pretty soon you got guns.
Whoa,
right?
Whoa, Nick. Dang.
But then you keep adding to it, right?
Exactly.
So life works the same way. And if you stop, then it atrophies. It goes backward and you lose some of it. And so you really want to just keep staying in motion.
With that momentum.
Yeah, with that momentum. Yeah. Even if you miss a day, get back on the next day. You know, keep going. So you've been awesome. Thank you so much. Just see there's one.
Thanks for your time, Hollee.
Nicole, let's see those guns.
Let's see those guns. Oh, geez. Here we go. My guns kind of look like this. They're like
I have,
little pinkies.
oh my gosh, I love it. Nicole is amazing, and I'm so grateful for her and you guys. So thank you again, and I hope you have a beautiful Sunday.
You too. Take care.
You too.
We'll see you again.
Thank you.
Bye.
Thank you.
Bye bye.